is it hard to live in Australia?
I personally can't answer that because I went there when I was 6, so everything, the foundations were already built for me from my parents. But I do hear from a lot of like people who've moved there later on in life, and they do find it a lot hard. They do find it very isolating.
You don't feel like lonely living in Australia as a black?
I definitely do feel lonely, like a lot, like really, really, really a lot. That's why I try to come back here as often as possible because home is best. Also, when I'm here, I feel like I fit in. I don't feel like an outsider. I don't feel like I have to pretend to be someone else.
Can you briefly introduce yourself?
Yeah, so my name is Scovia David, and I am 23 years of age, and I'm currently a student.
How long have you been here in Uganda?
I'm in and out of the country a lot. Yeah, so the longest I was here was 10 months, and then this time around I'm only here for 1 month.
1 month?
Yeah.
Whoa, that's good. Where do you start from?
Currently, I was born and raised here in Uganda, in the northern part, but we did move to Australia, but my father and little brother have moved back, so I've been in and out of the country. Yeah.
In which year you moved to Australia?
2006.
2006?
Yeah.
Oh, that's a long time ago.
Yeah, it's been a long time.
It was like 6 years?
Yeah, that's why my accent is like gone now. Yeah.
What do you study abroad?
What do I study? I'm currently doing my master's in international relations. Yeah.
Can you brief us, like, how did you go to Australia?
Honestly, I was a baby, so I don't remember. All I know was my uncle was living there at the time. He was living in America previously. He did his studies in America, then he moved and settled in Australia, and then he brought my whole family kind of along. Yeah.
Wow. I mean, you live there with all your family?
Not right now.
Yeah.
Right now, my father lives here and my little brother lives here, and my mom and the rest of us live the other side. But yeah, so when we first moved, everyone in my immediate family moved over there, yeah.
How do you see living in Australia as a Ugandan?
Honestly, it was hard in the beginning, like especially because Australia is very multicultural, and there wasn't a lot of Ugandans there. There's a lot of South Sudanese, but not a lot of Ugandans. So when I found one, it was like, you know, a miracle at the end of the day. But it was also a bit, you know, upsetting going from a place where everyone is black around you compared to Australia where you are the minority. So it was like if I had like one extra black girl in my class, like I would count that as a win, which was very rare. It was very rare. Even now, like in my master's program, there's like no black people doing what I'm studying. So I'm yet again the only black person in my classes.
Okay, you don't feel like lonely living in Australia as a black?
I definitely do feel lonely, like a lot, like really, really, really a lot. That's why I try to come back here as often as possible because home is best. Also, when I'm here, I feel like I fit in. I don't feel like an outsider. I don't feel like I have to pretend to be someone else. Over there, yeah, when you act a certain way, then they perceive you under a certain light, which is very hard. But when I'm home here, like I can be myself and I don't have to pretend to be anyone else.
Okay, well, how do you feel like being in Uganda for these months?
It feels good. It feels like a breath of fresh air. And I was telling my little brother, because he was born in Australia, but he goes to boarding school in Kampala now, telling him how lucky he is that everyone around him is like the same color as him. So all of the issues like the bullying and stuff, it's all about like material, like basically surface level thing, whereas in Australia a lot of the bullying was about color and a lot of about like language barriers and stuff, which he doesn't have to deal with. I tell him how lucky he is every single day. Yeah.
And he has been here for how long?
He's been here 3 years now.
3 years now.
Yeah.
And why he doesn't want to study in Australia? He came here in Uganda again.
It was like a long decision amongst everyone in our family. like as good as the education system is in Australia, it doesn't give kids the right foundation to develop as an individual. And then also there's the issue of being a minority and being racially different, which can cause him to get in a lot of troubles, not at his own, like not because of his own issues, but because of the way society perceives him. So we wanted him to have this experience of being around people who are similar to him, so he can grow as an individual rather than as a minority.
What do you do for a living?
I'm a student.
You're still a student.
I'm still a student, yeah.
I mean, you just study in Australia, you don't have time for work, because we had you have time for work and time for studying.
Yeah, so before I came on this trip, I was working full-time and studying full-time, but I did quit my job because it was just too much. Like, the workload and university load is not too good. So if I do go back, I will be working part-time, but it'd be like administration work or retail, all of that small stuff, just to have enough money, like pocket money. Yeah.
How is the culture difference between Australia and Uganda?
Culture-wise, as I said, Australia is very multicultural, so like your best friend could be Asian, Chinese, Filipino, Egyptian. They could also be like from the Middle East or anywhere from Europe. So I was exposed to a lot of cultures from a young age. So I was able to connect with and build friendships with a lot of people from culturally diverse backgrounds.
Wow.
Yeah.
Do you see a lot of foreigners coming in Australia? Like, like Africans coming in Australia?
In the beginning, when we first got there was, but now there's a lot of restrictions in regards to how many people can come into the country. So it's a lot harder for people to come into Australia now.
And my last question is, how is like living in Australia as an African?
It's hard because there's a specific country which has ruined kind of the reputation for black people in Australia. So now every time someone meets you, they think you're from that culture or from that country. But having to explain every single time that you're not from that country, you're not from the culture, it gets tiring to the point where whenever someone asks me, oh, where are you from? And I just tell them Africa.
You just say Africa.
I just say Africa, and then if they ask where in Africa, I tell them guess. And I get like random guesses. I get like Kenyan, Rwandan for some reason. I get South Sudanese a lot, Ugandan. What else? Yeah, they just guess a whole bunch of random places, and then I say, yep, you're right. How did you know? I don't even have time to argue or try to explain, because I've been trying to explain since I've been 6, and it's tiring. Yeah.
Would you recommend Australia to other Africans to visit?
Definitely. Australia is really beautiful. It has its own issues, like no country is perfect, but yeah, it's very beautiful. I love the beaches. It's quite safe compared to the rest of the world, but it's also like hard, just like the rest of the world, I guess. You have to hustle. Yeah.
Is it hard to live in Australia?
I personally can't answer that because I went there when I was 6, so everything, the foundations were already built for me from my parents. But I do hear from a lot of like people who've moved there later on in life, and they do find it a lot hard. They do find it very isolating, but you kind of get what you give. So if you don't go out of your way to make friends, then it's hard. Whereas here, I think in Africa, as a continent, everyone's just friendly. So if you meet someone, they say hi, they start talking to you on the taxis or around where you go to like events and stuff, people talk to you. Whereas there, people have their own groups, and if you're not part of that group, then you're kind of almost excluded. Yeah.
Which message do you have for young Africans who want to travel to Australia or Asian countries?
Honestly, do it. The experience will make or break you, but it will make you into a better person. So you can see life outside of Africa. There is other avenues in life, and like don't be afraid to explore those avenues.
Thank you so much for your time.
No worries. Thank you for having me.